Everyone, hello. It's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5 for a Friday. So I hope everyone's looking forward to the weekend. I know here in this area we are getting some rain, some very welcomed rain, which is great. And if you didn't know already, you can absolutely walk in the rain, hike in the rain, garden in the rain, all of those kind of good stuff. With the right tools or just the right attitude, you can do a lot in the rain. I'm not saying you can do everything in the rain, but you can. You can. So what do we have today? So for Live at 5, it's the usual. We're going to have something different. And I want to dive and roll on that one, and then some inspiration, and then we're going to go into some of the news, certain things that have popped up in a day yesterday, and then we're going to tell some definitions according to the joke pun book, so we'll have some fun there. And other than that, pipe in, comment, question, whatever it is, all is welcome. Say hello even. How are we going to go into this? Okay, this is interesting. This is kind of going to be on the theme of something that we've been hearing. We have been hearing, some maybe more. If you have the news on, when I'm at my father's place, they always have the news on. And I take the opportunities every 2 weeks I go there and help out. And I'm just kind of listening, listening to what's going on. And I'm going to get into a little bit more of that later. But I get food from Fresh City Farms, and they continuously morph what they're doing, evolve what they're doing is probably a good way to say it, brilliantly. And then there's a magazine that they're in here. It's called Foodism. And the foodist, I guess, I think this is the editor, but I'm not sure. But the food is so the restaurants have to adapt to the new normal too. So we should be kinder to them, says Taylor Newlands. The idea here is, they go into different examples. Different high-end restaurants. Wow. Then they had to get into boxing their wonderful, beautiful, high-end meals, and offerings. And then there's all the idea of where they have a lot of people, these bars, you can barely move around. And then they can have people in, but now they can be outside, but then they have to be, there are only so many people are allowed to be even outside. Anyway, 25%, that's nothing compared to having a full house ongoingly, because that has been the disruption here. It's not been ongoingly, it's been since November at least. But obviously they're looking towards kindness and understanding seems to be the bottom line here as to supporting the small businesses. I still will mention here, and talking to a neighbor this morning, that it doesn't matter what job you do. Is there a way to work for yourself? Is there a way to be, if you had to be an entrepreneur, what would you do? So she was particularly talking about a lady who comes into the house and helps his mom. And if she were to go private, that's what sometimes they say, that go private practice, then he would still hire her, to come in. And she'd have at least that. So she probably has all her clients. Anyway, bottom line is, do what you need to do. I was talking to another neighbor a couple of days ago, and there's definitely a lot of shifting as to how much people are not tolerating anymore and ready to get on with it, and maybe now going, oh yeah, I'll listen to what you have to say about what's going on, or perhaps more than what's going on. But she was saying, and I've understood this, and some of you have understood this, is that a number of businesses had been working from the back door. They've had to survive, they've had to thrive, they've had to do something, and they've been working from the back door. Even during times here, people have been doing things outdoors, like cutting hair. Others have been going to people's places because of their workplace, while they don't want to show any activity. So there has been a number of rebels. Anyway, I don't think it's a rebel as much as it's necessary. It's necessary. And I certainly told my neighbor that, I've been open. I've never, ever, never, ever closed. But I have a different scenario because I work out of my home. And even then, you want to be cautious. Had the bylaw officers here already. So one of the things I wanted to bring up, and again, it's going to get into the differences around this world. Should never, I mean, man is equal. But this is an interesting story that was in this Foodism book. And it was Anon. I'm not sure his, but he did something, and I just want to share this. Good news. Good news. On the Black Food Toronto Initiative. So, they have the certain foods that they like. They have in the cultural, in a way, right? But, so it goes through here on food justice and on food sovereignty, and then on cultivating African crops, and on the importance of black food sovereignty, and on the black food. So here they go, when the pandemic started, we decided to set up an emergency food system for our community in partnership with the City of Toronto. We set up Black Food Toronto, purchasing food from our community and making sure that they get culturally specific foods. And we set out to engage our community and have food sent to them that they would consume and that they would be familiar with. And since last year, we have engaged over 15,000 households by delivering food to them, and over 200,000 pounds of food. So what good news? I mean, something different in the sense that it's good news, right? Good news. So that's the Foodist. I mean, interesting book. They put almost like Facebook. Don't know if I would put my F like Facebook, but that's me. So there's a bit of alcohol in here. As far as, but Fish City Farms, they actually are selling alcohol now too. They have a sommelier, actually, and I sent it off to my niece and her partner because he brings in wonderful wines from Italy, and she's a sommelier herself. And I sent off the recent email from Fish City Farms. Said, check this out. I mean, maybe you can touch base with her. So something new. One of the things that is clear in this, say, part information age is that, what do you believe? You can have different angles on things. Even the theory of how do we have disease and get sick, right? So I think I was clear on that already, that I don't believe in the germ theory. I think there's some right things about it, but I'm going to go into that another time. I think I've already gone into it. So what I really wanted to talk about is it's kind of like a little bit of a native theme. And so I want to tell you a little bit of story here. Once upon a time, I went on a vision quest with Brenda McIntyre. She's a wonderful singer. She's got her albums. She's actually right now is promoting, actually a number of Indigenous people were selling goods at a certain price, but to raise money, on what's happening with the Indigenous, right? Don't have to say too much, but I'm going to bring it up a bit later. So on that front, just to bring awareness to a situation that happened in Canada as well. And this is involving the Inuit, because I was more drawn at the time to the Inuit and doing research, my own research on them, because of my interactions with the raw seal oil. Raw seal oil, or mammalian blubber, whale, walrus, seal, has been consumed around the world, north and south poles, not so much in the middle, near the tropics or anything like that, or the equator, because you don't really need the same amount of blubber there. So you have these cold water fish, you've heard that before, as a source of omegas. But there is a big difference between them. But I want to mention that at the time that the Inuit were being assimilated, if you're not familiar with them, you see their name there. I'm thinking more of the 50s here, maybe not so much earlier, but maybe it happened later. And they moved entire villages, and if you watch the documentary, the words that come out of their mouth is barbaric. It's just like this documentary, as if they can't understand English, and the way they're talking is just makes me laugh. But as silly it is, they thought they didn't know how to live and survive and raise children, so they actually gave them tags and numbers so they identify who they were. But they wrote a booklet as in how to live and how to raise children. And they were laughing about it. That's why I'm laughing about it. They were actually, the Inuit people, the Inuit that were in the documentary, were smiling and laughing too. But the thing I'm going to get to regarding the seal is around that same time the message came out, stop the seal hunt. And that came from various parties. I'm not going to say I know the exact party that maybe came up with it. Might be group, might be government and state involved in it. They were surely involved in it in the US when they did the bill to not allow seal and seal products into the US, one of their big customers. Now, the thing about the seal hunt, yes, it was fur, but also the seal blubber as well. And of course, it was a source of food, but also, my understanding from watching the documentaries, their only source of income and independence. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I can tell you right now, if you want to work with the Inuit people, you got to go through the government, or you may have to go through a number of consultants before you go through the government. And it's been like this for a while, which is absolutely BS in my opinion, how they don't have that scenario going on. So I'm happily engaged with in a kind of in a way with the Inuit to help them using and promoting their doing the seal hunt and using their raw material, plus helping them sell the various wares that they can do. So use the whole seal and climb all those wonderful things. But I feel that the reason why the stop the seal hunt came in almost right at the same time, around the same period, is to take away their independence of making money. Yeah, and it continued for as long as it could, and still today. And what's the taste on people's mouth? So what happened recently, when I say recently, in the last several years, is people like Greenpeace and Toronto Humane Society and such, more of Greenpeace, apologized. They were completely super apologetic, dripping with kindness towards the Inuit people and what they did to them. Now, if people are so smart, there's no way they can not. And they were told, and the Inuit people went to Europe and and spoke like that. So years later, they decide they're going to, or after the fact, crazy. But these are the stories we may be hearing ongoingly. And the other thing I want to kind of comment too, before I go into something that most people don't understand, is before I go into that part, I want to say that, if you read history books, if you read stories, assimilation has been done for probably millennia or more, millennia for sure, where they will go, and if they want to take over lands, they will annihilate or assimilate. And that has been the trend. We're probably not going to hear about so much of it because maybe they didn't want people to know, or maybe reading, writing, and all of those things weren't really a thing, and you soon lose track of what history is and tell stories. Well, the victors are going to tell the stories as they say. But we have, fortunately, over these 100 years, we have people, we have survivors, we have people that are speaking out and also vying for attention on this well before the Canadian government came out and said and apologized, that kind of stuff, which is healing. Healing is going to be the biggest thing. Healing is going to be the way for sure, but the light's coming in by awareness, right? So not only in this, be ready for other things that are going to shed light on some horrific things, crazy things, because this is the light shining into the recesses that have been, these things have happened. Now, before I go back into that, I want to get back to the raw seal oil. I'm not going to hold it up or anything, but I want to go into a couple of pieces of information that came through. I'll put these link up. So one of the things that people have to understand with omegas is it is a waste byproduct. Primarily the source that most people are familiar with, fish, let's say, is a waste byproduct of the fishing industry. So it's really the leftovers. Yes, it is great, use the whole fish, but when people started eating fish more and more, they had all this waste byproduct. You blend it all up, oil comes to the surface, and you skim it off, and you can use heat and all that kind of stuff to make it thing. But here is SciTech Daily. It's about omega-3 that poisons that's a poison for cancer tumors. It truly is. It oxygenates the cells so cancer can't survive. That's how it's easy there. But when you see this, you'll see day 3 how it's shrinking. You'll see day 13. Now these are in French because this was done probably in France or somewhere. It doesn't say, but yeah, Université Catholique de Louvain. We won't hold that against them. But so day 13, and you can see that it is smaller and it's very much more cloudy. The important thing too is to be able to get those toxins out of the body. So elimination is very, very important. For some reason, I'm just going to talk more about cleansing, and that includes going to bed and having hours of sleep and drinking enough water. It absolutely does. All these healthy lifestyle things here. So 3D tumors that disintegrate within a few days thanks to the action of well-known omega-3. In this particular, they said DHA and found mainly in fish. But this is an exceptional discovery by the University of Louvain. Hungry for fatty acids, tumor cells in acidosis gorge themselves on DHA, but are unable to store it correctly and literally poison themselves. The result, they die. So, in essence, the thing is a little bit more complicated than I thought by reading that, but the idea is when you have the right sources of a fatty acids, you actually oxygenate, you actually allow the cells to disperse, because that's not what they're looking for, and they will but anti-cancer. So if I had to put a link up and give you top 10 diseases, you're going to see cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, as I think 3 of them on that top 10 where they have extreme deficiencies in omega-3. The reason why omega-3 is important is it is anti-inflammatory, yes, but it actually has a bigger affinity, larger, whatever, I'm just using language, for oxygen, right? So an oxygen scenario. So there's a little video and stuff here. And so there was another study that I was given to today. Let's see if I can find it easily enough. Here it is. Nope, that's the Archbishop one we're going to go through later. So this was a couple of studies, and this is to do with duodenal seal oil administration. So the duodenal is part of your small intestine, so your digestive system. So short-term duodenal seal oil administration, normalized omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio in rectal mucosa, and ameliorated bodily pain in patients with inflammatory bowel disease. So sounds good, is good, and seal oil has a balance of omega-6 to omega-3. You need omega-6. That would be your immune system or your body getting into action with things that are foreign. So not only the vitamin C for support and the vitamin A for support, as they've been talking about immune or even just all over body support, it's also these healthy essential fats. Huge. You don't need much. A couple of teaspoons, a few teaspoons, depending on what you have. If you're going in for cancer treatment, then the seal oil has worked with 3 teaspoons a day. Miracles for those people going through poison into their body. They call it chemotherapy peripheral neuropathy. And this chemotherapy, it's a poison, and so every time, 100% of the time, they would get that. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up. I mean, I know a lot of people are taking fish oils or even plant oils or even krill oils, and they hold nothing against raw seal oil. Nothing. So that's my experience over 12 years for sure. It could be 13, could be 14, but it's definitely 13 for sure. 13. So anyway, I'll put that up as well so you can look there. I'm going to show you, again, I'll put the list up of the top 10 conditions that actually show through the study and research that they are omega-3 deficient. So that's important. It's important to understand that they do measure certain things when there's a particular condition, and they kind of measure. They've done it for vitamin D and cancer for sure. But I do want to tell you a little story about that to kind of go on. So that's enough about that. But and this is for all of us, and this actually brings in the life and journey as well. I was speaking to a neighbor, and she's a naturopathic doctor. She's a homeopathic doctor, and what we were chatting about different things, but she ended up getting sick, and it's kind of held on. But for her, understanding the spiritual journey, it was it was kind of bringing arrogance because she knew so much. There's just no way she was going to get sick, and it just humbled her. And what a blessing, what a lesson, what a growth for her and how she accepted. So anyway, this or that way, it happens or doesn't happen. There's going to be sometimes the spiritual side to it, the metaphysical side to it. And I just want to slap that in because sometimes people will go, well, why that person? Or why me? And there might be a little bit more to it than you understand, or that you understand. That's probably the easiest thing to do. So hello. Okay, I just want to go through quickly. I'm going to make a comment. Okay, I'm going to make a comment because this actually been happening this last few days, and people got this happen, but then this happens, and when they thought they just had enough on their plate, this happens, and they thought their day would be perfectly going this way. And so if you can remember this, you are never given more than you can handle. You are never given more than you can handle. So hold that. I also want to go into something that came through from Esther Hicks, so we can go because it's relevant. Now this is from 2009, an excerpt from The Vortex, which I think is one of her books and stuff. Our diversity supports our individual freedoms. While our societies continue to try to dictate and enforce human behavior to please the majority, because of your diversity, it continues to be an uncomfortable struggle that again and again falls of its economic weight. There simply is not enough money in the world to buck the natural currents of individual freedom and independence of thought. So let that sink in. Let that sink in, that all this diversity, all this thing that we're trying to do, whether I call it the royal syndrome, be like the rich and wealthy, be you, be what what brings you joy, what you're passionate about. And you may find, have your gifts here and there, and you explore that, and then maybe you go to this and that, that may change up. But the idea here, for sure, I think it's just simple. I think I'm going to copy it out of here. I'm going to put it into the comments right now, so you can have it here and see it for yourself if you want to read it, and then it'll be there. There we go. I'm just going to put in Esther Hicks for now. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to put that in. So let's dive in a little bit to a few other things here. One of the things is all lives matter. All children matter. And I've said this before about contrast, light and dark, light and dark, light and dark. We can only see the dark and what's in the dark if we shine the light into it. That's why coming out of that and getting into center and being grounded and finding the joy and peace is the healing. It's whatever will make light shining in. It might be sun meditation, it'll be whatever it is to get to that place of healing, that place of peace, peace, that kind of thing. So that's going to be important thing. Now, interestingly enough, I'm seeing this. I don't know if I have it here. I'll just go by memory. Is that the Pope does not want to apologize. He does not want to apologize. And the reason I heard was one of the most ridiculous reasons I have ever heard. It's almost like, does he not dictate down, or is he just like a figurehead or something? No, I think he dictates down, and I think there's all these levels and all these groups. But yet, when it comes to this, and this is what the Archbishop thought, it wasn't what the Pope said, that legally these different sections within the church are legally somehow bounded or not bounded together, and maybe that's what it is. It's to the role of that. I'm sorry, if you're the big cheese in this kind of scenario, which hopefully he's half the man in order to see what's going on here, then yeah, I think an apology and then some. But here's the commercial I saw. So I'm at my father's yesterday, and this is the commercial I found. I could not find it. I'm not sure how that works with commercials. You can find it online. Are they on YouTube? I do not know. But anyway, what it was a statement from the Catholic Church to give compensation to anybody that has been abused, no matter how far back. I guess you just have to be alive. And they're giving out compensation. And I asked my father and my mom, I asked them, when did you first see that commercial? And I think they said the day before. So I was there Thursday, so Wednesday. And they do watch a bit of TV. They usually have it on, background noise. It's just the way they do things. And so that was the first time. So how coincidence, that is. And that goes way up to the Pope in that case. So that's a global thing. But I didn't get a chance to actually pull up a number of things on that. But I did pull up a couple of things to do. It's probably on my other 30 tab window when it comes to this. I'm going to say that if I can find that commercial or even the website, I should have taken down the website or the number. I think there was a website. Maybe I'll go to the Catholic website and see where that's got to be somewhere. I mean, it's a commercial. It's not like a social media, social media thing. So it's an actual commercial. So if you know anybody who's ever spoken up, or just the mere fact that you can kind of put it out there, I don't think they have to make it public or anything. I don't know. But they can surely explore it to see what would be going on, because I know people that have, and they're definitely still alive, and they definitely did healing from it and so forth. And I'm not sure what they have planned with compensation, to tell you the truth. So it seems like the dark is definitely going to get dark, if not darker, here in Canada, and the U.S. is definitely going to be doing some things down there as well. Off the get-go, anytime you do a simulation like that, it's just pure craziness and insanity. In fact, I just kind of want to jump into that. I was thinking about this morning, or it just popped into my head. If somebody ever said, "Where's your mask?" to me again, I'm going to say, as my uncle said, "Is yours not working?" But here's the logic. I was coming up with this different logic of different things going, okay, so they have this mask, and it's supposed to be protective, and if they're so worried because they're vulnerable, then they should be wearing the mask. And I'll liken it to this. If you're out in a boat or on the water, if me is having put sunscreen on me going to help you? If there's a bunch of mosquitoes around and I put a net over me, is not putting a net over you that's the best thing to protect you? Nothing I do is going to protect you. What else did I put on it? Even hat, or even seatbelt. For the sake of seatbelts, you go in. If I put a seatbelt on and you don't put a seatbelt on, I'm sure there's many other examples that by doing something has no impact on the other person at all. And this is what this reminds me of when we think of the mask. I believe truly they did that just to divide and give each other grief, and people couldn't see it. They couldn't see it. So that was, I just wanted to make sense with that. Common sense, logic. It's so crazy when they mention that. It just makes no sense at all. Absolutely no sense that anybody's going to be responsible. You put your mask on, you put your sunscreen on, you put your mosquito net on, you put your seatbelt on, you put it on, and it will protect you. And that's the way it's been forever and ever and ever, right? You take care of yourself. That's the way it's worked. You can take care of others next, but you take care of yourself first. So you do it in airplanes. You put on your oxygen mask first, and then you put it on the little ones. That, so much about growth, inner growth, self-mastery, all of that means you just work on yourself. You just work on yourself. So what else did I want to, yeah, it looks like we're no longer in a global pandemic, people. That's kind of cool. And the Emergency Act's coming down, and this and this. I know they have the Reopening Act, and they have the Quarantine Act here in Ontario. That's the last I heard after posting about the Emergency Act being revoked being canceled. But I still haven't been able to call. I just want, this is a little bit of a reminder here, as maybe some other things pop in. They will pop in, because there's some things I want to read here. Top 10 things you should know about COVID-19 shots. This is a little bit of a review. Vaccine makers are immune from liability. Crazy. And you know what I heard the other day? Thanks for people for sending news to me. I get through as much as I can, but never all of it. But I just zone into something. And this was a guy speaking to say that right now, the P-Vax, the company there, PF, is bankrupt. And they lost some suit or something recently to do with Lipitor. Interesting. Just going to mention that quickly. So vaccine companies have long rap sheets. Wow, and they just got longer, apparently. Just got longer. And the injuries and death, Vioxx, opioids, they've been very much part of that. And we know that all these medications are not getting to the root cause, and there's a bunch of side effects which they have to read really fast at the very end. But I encourage anybody who's on medications, look at the side effects. Look at your side effects. If you want to get some inspiration to come off your meds, listen, there's no guaranteed, especially if you're over the age of, I think, 50 for experiments, and I mean, are 2, 5, 6, 7, 10, that they're working for you and they're going to keep you alive. Some things are different. Some things are absolutely different if you have a autoimmune or if you have transplants, stuff like that. There are going to be things. Number 3, previous attempts to make similar vaccines have failed. That's the SARS-1 using monkeys, and when they were exposed to the virus, which we know all these variants are similar, they actually died, right? They all died. COVID vaccines have no long-term safety studies. Of course they don't. They're actually still in the phase 3, and that's all in the paperwork, experimenting right now. That's going to get me to go to this person here. Okay, I'm going to put these up. This is Alberta Public Health Measures to end on July 1st. Yep, that's not it. Manitoba Vaccine Lead says mixing vaccines is part of, you know how always the title here, I'm going to wait till it comes up here. Manitoba Vaccine Lead says mixing vaccines is part of pandemic's big human experiment. Now, that's always that part. Let me just read a little bit. Ottawa, Dr. Joss Reamer, medical lead for Manitoba's vaccine implementation task force, says that new vaccine recommendations from the National Advisory Committee on Immunization on mixing mRNA vaccines will be a form of trial and error. Well, in some ways, quote, in some ways, during a pandemic, everything we do is a big human experiment. She said in an interview with CTV's Question Period, airing Sunday, quote, because we're all having to learn together at the same time about what works best. Oh, great. Lovely. Ah, la la. Anyway, I'll put that up. And there was some other, oh yes, something else I actually want to mention here. I'm going to put it up. And, I'm learning a little bit about politics, and maybe you are too. But Michelle Rumpel Gardner. You probably have heard her, but at the end of the day, some people like people, some people don't. And for me, it's the message what I really go for, regardless, and listen to that. But here, a full assault on your rights. Liberals take the Speaker of the House to court to hide documents. So apparently, the Parliament has every right to have access to documents, and the Prime Minister wants to hold these documents, whatever. And anyway, they won, but the Speaker of the House, who makes that, is being brought to court, taken to court. Now, I don't know all the details, but apparently that's not good, because that doesn't make us a democracy at the end of the day. But I'll put that short video up. It's only 13 minutes. It's not very long. But if you're like me and you don't know a whole heck of a lot about politics, it's going to be short to the term. So let's just see here. 5. Serious adverse vaccine reactions are real and underreported. Yeah, I've heard that from different people. But I also have heard recently, even from the pharmacist that I've posted recently, that she says from previous, so now the nice thing about it is hearing from people who can see the trend and how it's always been from previous facts, right? And that is important to validate. That's just not, jumping out of nowhere. It actually is a thing and has happened in the past. That makes sense anyway, because some people, and I know through this period of time, they didn't know. Doctors didn't even know where to report it. This is new reporting. Canada didn't have the same system as others do. But my understanding is, in seeing some recent numbers, is I think there's 30,000 deaths, something like that, or greater if you're thinking about what has not been reported. But recently I saw that. I'll bring it up. But there, it's nice to have these reporting systems, and call your public health and get into the line and get the number, whatever you need, whatever, press 8, press 6, that's I think Toronto Public Health, and report everything, even a sore arm for 3 hours. Report it, report it, report it. And the idea is, perhaps something's going to come up in a week, perhaps something's going to come up and so forth. There you go. So that's vaccine reactions. And if you're not on the page, I'll put it down here. If you're not on the page on Facebook where people are tuning in and putting their stories and sharing their stories, if you want a little bit of a dose of reality, so to speak. Number 6, COVID vaccines have not been proven to stop infection or transmission. To me, this is the biggest, not the biggest over what happens to people when they get it, but the idea before you get it is understand what exactly are these doing, these injections. Besides even putting in toxic stuff, which is always need to be put in because of preservatives and they may whatever else have there, is the fact that it doesn't stop you from getting it. It doesn't stop you from transmitting it. It only supposedly is effective at making the symptoms less. Now, if I really want to get technical, you're really not going to know from one person to the next. If I have 10 people, I will never know, because you're only taking one scenario. They're in this group, that group, so they're doing the best they can. But ideally, you take the one person and you're able to clone them and have each of them do a different scenario and see where they both, because people are going to respond differently, and it's not really, in my opinion, an accurate way to say the efficiency. I haven't read all the documents. There's a lot of documents out there. The interesting thing, I'm going to show you this document, and I'm sure it's on Vaccine Choice's website, but it's nice. And the nice thing about it is every point that I've been talking about has its reference, whether it's TV, Global News, something like that. And but let's go through 7, 8, and 9. 7, COVID survival rate for all ages is 99.85. 99.85. Do you remember in the beginning it was 3%, 4%? People are going to die. This is the survival rate, and we already know the majority of them are over the age of 70 in this case. WHO website reports overall survival rate is 99.85 and 99.95 under 70. Okay, so the treatments, yeah, that's another story altogether. 8, conflicts of interest and lack of transparency. Moderna's research and development partner is the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Yeah, conflict of interest, directed by Dr. whatever, Spouty. Spouty. Anyway, he is in trouble. Moderna benefited from $2.5 billion in the U.S. federal government funding when developing its vac technology. At the end of the day, they're going to make all the money from it. So what's the deal? I don't get this. And then get all the money that they make from selling it. That makes no sense to me at all. But Health Canada lacks transparency by example by not releasing the COVID purchase contract details or answering questions about leaked documents that raised questions about the integrity of the mRNA vaccines. Well, they can't even talk about shedding, even though on the Pfizer document, it's called occupational exposure. They can't even mention that. In the sense that if you have never got vaccinated and you're the one who's giving them health care or looking after these people because you do, you get a chance of getting the, your body's producing the pathogen, your body's producing the spike protein, the thing that you don't want to produce, in my opinion. You don't want to get it in your body anyway, and that's kind of going through the body, and then shedding is going out. Well, polio. Polio, and apparently the only polio left in Africa is because they got the polio vaccine, and measles, I've heard it being shed that way as well. It's like normal and natural. I mean, if somebody has chicken pox and they have a chicken pox party and all the kids get sick, and it's a way for them to build up their immune system and move on. So number 9, mRNA vaccines contain problematic ingredients. Yes, the polyethylene glycol. Yep, we're going to preserve your body at the same time. You might have heard me talk about that scenario about Japan. And J&J Vax contains polysorbate 80. Again, ingredients that are, sensitive. Well, they're toxic. And they actually can, and as they say here, anaphylaxis, right? So they know that. And although the unlicensed mRNA vaccines are the first in widespread use to feature PEG, there are a number of approved vaccines that include it as well, all of which document anaphylaxis in their package insert. Apparently, there's no package insert. I've asking people, but they say, oh, I'm finished, I got my second one, and I wanted them to ask about it. But that pharmacist said, look, it's a blank piece of paper. That's hilarious. Okay, last one. Oh, the SM102. That's another ingredient. They don't have it here, but if you look that up, that's, external, it's problematic. Never mind internal. It's toxic, very toxic. The J&J vaccine contains aborted human fetal cell lines. The whole thing about that, people, is they're using monkeys, the adendovirus, to produce this spike protein in all of these. They're not using human. And I don't know why. That's how they used to make them. They'd get samples, they'd culture them, and then you actually have those, and you put them in your body. That's ideal. But to culture something from here, or from this insect, or part, dog or cat, which some people feel that's why all the allergies in the cat and dog. You have and then you have all of a sudden these children have peanut allergies. Well, they have peanut things in there. So why? I do not know. It almost seems so fishy. But that's just going over that. So I might try and find that in that sense. I don't think the only thing that's coming up to recently is all of this inflammation. So whether it's at the CDC website, myocarditis and pericarditis, or heart inflammation in young men, higher National Post. So this is coming out more and more about this inflammation in the younger people. But I'm going to say, by looking at some of the information on the virus and things happen, heart attacks, and inflammation is what's kind of happening, and it could be anywhere in the body, and also toxicity and poisoning of the body. So those two key things. Inflammation can be caused by the toxicity. So if you are damaging the body and you have this increased toxicity is being produced by your own body, and it's getting out of the place where it's supposed to stay. I don't know how they can assume that it's not going to when the whole body's connected. But I just wanted to mention that. So we're going to go through a couple of definitions, as they say in the book. And I can't think if there was anything else. There's a lot, there's a lot to go through. But, yeah, that's basically it. So let's go through some definitions and see how we can smile and make things light again. Professor, a textbook wired for sound. Nonsense, an elephant hanging over a cliff with his tail tied to a daisy. A volcano, a mountain that blew its stack. Television, a machine that offers people who don't have anything to do a chance to watch people who can't do anything. That's television. Wholesome, the only thing from which you can take the whole and still have some left. Wholesome. A caterpillar, an unupholstered worm, or an upholstered worm. A mountain climber, a man who always wants to take just one more peek. Politics, a parrot that has swallowed a watch. X-ray, belly vision. Pillow, headquarters. I like that one. That one's cute. Soda jerk, a licensed physician. A soda jerk. Now, is that, in this day, and his book is 50 years old, is that somebody who is pouring a soda? Do we call them a soda jerk? A licensed physician. Undercover agent, a spy in bed. Undercover agent. Nice. Mountain range, a cooking stove made especially for use at high altitudes. Mountain range. Nice. Let's see how many more there is. I'm just going to do a few more that'll finish these 2 pages up. Etiquette. Saying no thank you when you want to yell, gimme. Etiquette. Circle. A round line up so as not to show where it began. Icicle. An eavesdropper. I like that one. An alligator, a sick reptile. So that's enough for today of the definitions, which I guess are silly, and being 50 years old. It's interesting on the ones that they actually had ones for, like television, politics, or all of those ones. I'll post some of them up. I think that's it for today. I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and hope to see you Monday at Live at 5 for sure. And other than that, yeah, bring the light. Don't take things too seriously, and know that everything that is happening you can handle. You can handle everything that's coming your way. There is never a moment where that doesn't happen. So if that gives you any comfort, and then you're not, whatever, buzzing around like a person thinking that, or I've got too much, or whatever it is, you're not given more than you can handle. And I'm sure you might shake your head at that, and that's okay. And that's okay. There's probably more to unpack there. Oh, one more thing. That's what I wanted to bring up, because I had it in the verbiage here, I'll call it. Tipi. So if you're in Toronto or in the Ontario area, but it's 2.5 hours from Toronto, if you are interested in going on a Tipi village, and we have 6 people signed up already, but I just haven't been able to promote it. It's about a month from now, so July 25th to 27th, so 2 nights, 3 days. Up to you. I needed 6 people anyway to do the meal plan to make it worth it, but you can always pack up all your food and plan it that way, but it's very, very reasonable. If you're interested, I have a whole email with details that will take you through and answer most of your questions. You can bring pets. We're going to do a hike one day. It's optional, so I'm going to set up a schedule. It'll be optional. We'll have some fun play at night every night. There'll be downtime. You just hang out. The Tipi village, there's several in the village, New Earth Estate. You'll have the email. You can go check it out. And we're right on a very, I'm going to say, good-sized river. So you're going to be able to hear it at night. And seeing the stars at night and all of that. So big bonfire, but also in the Tipi village there is a sauna. So we heat it by firewood, and there's a hot tub as well. And also for you people who like a bit of the comfort, and you're thinking, I'm in a Tipi village, how am I going to go to the bathroom? There's a utility room slash bathroom that has bathroom, a nice big sink, and done charmingly. And the light turns on if you get close. They have showers there too if you so wish. And we're going to go for hikes there, a little bit of foraging, learning plants, going to do some stretching, wide end, anybody wants to do that. And there's got to be some surprises. You can't tell you everything. But we're going to sleep in the teepee, and there's a nice board, call it almost a deck. That goes kind of around the fire pit because you don't want the fire pit on the wood. So out from that is, after the path, is this nice wooden deck. And on top of the wooden deck is quite a hefty, thick, comfortable mat. And then they provide sleeping bags, a pillow, even in the utility slash bathroom there, your towel, like just about everything is covered, but a few different things, your clothes or whatever. So I have a packing list for people. It's very little. And you're just going to kind of come and hang out, and we're just going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to be at nature, and awesome food. So I'm going to make all the food. I'm going to set up a menu closer to the time once I know how many people are going, but it'd be great to have other people are welcome. So, and some people are coming in groups, 3 or 4, and they're sharing a teepee, because there's a couple smaller teepees, but there's large teepees that will sleep 9 or 10. So at any rate, if a group just want to come in and take over a whole teepee, yeah, fine. That's pretty good. And one's even bringing their pet, so you can actually bring your pet to the teepee village holiday. That's good too. So it's just a small fee for that, like $30. And then the dog obviously will sleep in the teepee too, and it'll be fun. So I will answer any questions regarding the teepee holiday for 2 nights, 3 days, and we go off for a hike one day for 3 hours and see a waterfall and so forth and so forth. But anyway, if you're interested, the best thing to do is just to private message me your email address, and I will send it to you. It is uploaded on my Forest Hill Walk Club meetup site, but unless you're a member, you can't access there. It's kind of made private, anonymous, so we don't have people knowing where we're meeting up and things like that. But it's easy. You can join and then you can quit. I know people can get around it. But that's it. I wanted to make sure that I got that out as well, and tell people, because it's going to be a lot of fun, probably new to a lot of people for the time up there. And I just love it. The environment, tall trees, right nestled in the forest, right on the river. And I think it's 50 acres in and of itself. So we get to forage around there, and I get to take some hikes and walks around there too as well. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy a walk and a smile and a hug and all those kind of things. And we will see you on Monday live at 5. So bye for now. Do we have? Yes.